I think it's a mistake to think about the jobs challenge as something that's being created by the recession. It actually isn't. In fact, in some ways, the recession may have simply exposed underlying weakness in the ability to create jobs in most advanced economies.
Beyond the debate about the role of taxes and spending and fiscal stimulus, which are important debates, governments and society and business need to be talking about how to improve the skills picture in the labor market.
There are a couple of core beliefs we have if governments think about interventions. First of all, this is a very complex and interlinked phenomenon, and they should make sure that they consider all the driving forces behind it. So that means that they cannot simply buy jobs. It means that they have to consider what is going on the migration side, on the economic stimulus and demand side, and what is going on the education side. This all has to fit together.
You can no longer assume that as long as the economy is doing great, jobs will be doing great. The data doesn't seem to support that.
Unemployment is almost by definition a case of labor market failure because the labor supply does not match the employer's demand for work. If we take an example, in Germany we have an unemployment rate of roughly 7%, and at the same time we have a job vacancy rate of 2.3%.
We have a situation where even with very high unemployment, business is not getting the skills that it needs. McKinsey surveyed 2,000 companies. 40% of them said that they had jobs open for 6 months or more, and this is at the height of the unemployment crisis, that they could not fill because of lack of skills.
How do we rethink training for the 21st century? I think is a fundamental priority for business leaders to really think about. Most companies will tell you, they would much rather have the great smart engineer who lives next to where they are versus the great smart engineer who lives on the other side of the world. The question is then, how do we get them interested in creating that great smart engineer?
Business could play a really critical role in helping educational and training institutions define the skills that are required. What does job readiness, what does career readiness actually mean? What does it mean in general, and what does it mean specifically in the hospitality industry or in the healthcare industry or in the manufacturing industry?
There's one so-called best practice example which comes from Germany and is the dual system. Basically the idea is that pupils coming from secondary education spend time in a 2 to 3 year training program, and actually 50% of the German pupils do that. This training program is structured in the way that you spend half of your time with the employer and getting training on the job, and half of the time you get additional education, but in a way that this education fits the needs of the specific profession.
The information available to labor market participants, whether that's workers or students or employers, is actually very poor. When you compare that to what's available for, say, a company that wants to market to consumers, the type of consumer information, the granularity of real-time consumer information is much greater.
Is there a economy-wide utility or mechanism that companies can somehow share and provide on a, I love technology, so is there a technology platform that can be created that actually can make transparent and so that we can help solve for some of these market failures around knowing what skills are required, what skills are going to lead to jobs, where are the jobs, who needs, who has openings when, so that people can make better informed decisions about either educational choices that they make or even how they think about where they want to live when they graduate or decide to shift and move.
It's not that government is likely to produce the best information utilities to help people navigate the labor market, but they play an incredibly important role in producing the data.
You can think of maps being published where you see in color coding, for example, which are the specific job needs, very down to the specific education or professional skills needed, and at the same time, what are the open spaces? And you can publish that, and people go online and have a dialogue about this, and then the matching is much faster and much easier, and it creates also the energy of people moving towards where the open jobs are.
The business community has an incredibly important role to play in helping the labor market function better, and I think it's very much in the interest of the business community to do so.
Governments can actually do a lot to help to correct labor market failure. They can help with the demand side, creating economic stimulus. They can help on the supply side by investing into education. And they can help with the matching, especially by providing transparency and setting the incentives right.
We need to get a lot less simplistic and a lot more sophisticated in thinking about what is the role of government and what is the role of business and what are the role of others like community-based organizations and so forth.
We're in a different time now where the idea that policymakers do what they do and business leaders do what they do and the two don't need to engage and interact, I think is not the right, can no longer be the right answer.